Yoda is among the most quotable characters in cinematic history, and I thought it would be fun and maybe fruitful to comment on some of the things George Lucas and other writers over the decades came up with for him. Let's start with what's perhaps the big one. Do or do not. There is no try. You hear it all the time, whether at home, school, or work, that if you don't try, you can't succeed. We've been conditioned by this industrious society to foster that mentality, so that we enhance productivity and maximize profit. Funny how it all goes back to business. But whatever happened to doing something out of genuine passion, to showcasing our talents, enlightening others, or contributing to something greater than ourselves? For the longest time, I also conformed to this notion of putting my best effort into everything I do. But I've come to question something over the years. What does that really even mean? Am I supposed to invest my time and labor so long as I'm meeting expectations or affecting the outcome of something potentially monumental? Or what about when I'm told to go above and beyond what's expected of me? Am I actually being permitted to approach the task at hand in my own innovative way? Or am I unknowingly still supposed to be following some form of guideline? In other words, does trying guarantee success? If it does, where exactly does the success come from? Obeying orders or going out of my way to make magic happen? There are several reasons that make me realize I don't entirely agree with the age-old saying, if you don't try, you'll never know. I anticipate that most of you, if not all of you, are already prepared counter-arguments. But before you proceed to perform Franz Liszt's La Campanella on your keyboards, please hear me out. I have actually thought this through, and I'm not just spouting out declarations without an explanation or out of apathy toward hard work. First, allow me to clarify why I don't think trying necessarily equates to success. I sincerely believe that it's a misleading concept, because it suggests in a way that it doesn't matter how you go about accomplishing something, so as long as you put in the effort, so to speak, which in and of itself is already a relatively vague statement. Thus, it can possibly cast doubt on ethics, artistic integrity, and generally doing things the right way or with coherent thought put into it. More often than not, you aren't even completely sure of what you're doing and where you will go with it. I get that the unpredictability is usually what makes the whole experience exciting and all the more motivating for people. But it can also backfire if you don't have a concrete, feasible plan, or even just a sense of what you want to see come out of the final product. One of the biggest burdens anyone could bear is the feeling of disappointment when their work doesn't amount to anything worthwhile. We've seen many projects put up by industries where they try experimenting with too many ideas at once, according to what consumers seemingly want or are accustomed to, and it all turns into a mess. This is especially due to the fact that the ideas put forth have a tendency to lack full realization, and much of the substance ends up being relegated to flashy effects and pop culture references, which is particularly true in cinematography and video games. Once again, it's all about conformity. One of the biggest problems I have with this perception of trying is that it subtly implies productivity for the sake of someone else's interests or standards, rather than deciding to do something out of inspiration, and using one's wits and imagination to bring that vision to life. Now, I know that school and a lot of mundane jobs are the obvious exceptions to this definition of trying. School, in particular, is the institution I'd avoid making reference to in this case, because it doesn't count as the real world. The way I see it, it's a controlled environment set to arbitrarily determine who might survive in the real world and who probably won't. Actually, this analogy works in helping to explain my next point. I feel that trying is the limbo between achieving goals or failing at them. Its only purpose is to determine one of the two scenarios. Simply put, you either succeed in completing the mission or you don't. Sounds familiar, right? You must have confidence in your product and be certain that what you're doing is well thought out and well grounded. Trying doesn't denote any of this for me. It doesn't automatically warrant creations a gold star if they aren't functional or particularly groundbreaking. Another major element is creativity. You can't try to be creative because you have to explore ideas and be immersed in the spaces that you're connecting with. Brainstorming should be fun and adventurous rather than a chore, which is what trying really is, if you ask me. Trying to appeal to everyone will also prove to be fruitless, as not everyone will be able to relate to, understand, or find endearment in those ideas the same way you do. Those who acknowledge and appreciate your work will speak louder than those who don't. I am in no way dismissing the importance of a strong work ethic. Rather, I encourage my viewers to rethink their definitions of try, figure out what exactly they're striving for, and if it's worth their time and capabilities. True success comes from illuminating oneself and others through wondrous and thought-provoking work, and enjoying every moment of progress. Moving on, I find this other quote of Yoda's interesting and actually quite agreeable. Attachment leads to jealousy, the shadow of greed, that is. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose. Starting with the first part of it, I think it's something a lot of people probably find relatable, but don't want to admit to. It's true that people can become possessive of the things and people they hold so dearly to their hearts, as well as any special skills and talents they're proud of. It can get to a point where they're scared to lose them or get upstaged by someone else, and will go so far as to treat certain things that shouldn't be considered property as such to ensure that they don't get taken away from them. They allow such things to define them, rather than their character, and they get so wrapped up in their insecurities instead of focusing on what makes them happy and how to live peacefully with these things. It becomes less about what they enjoy and more about how to make sure they aren't left vulnerable. This is why I think that the second part of this quote is extremely important to keep in mind, because it's legitimately good advice. People need to realize that they aren't always in control of what they have, and must learn how to live with whatever happens to them while looking back on them fondly. It can admittedly be, depending on what we're talking about here, a very difficult thing to do. Still, it can nevertheless be a true testament to character. Not to mention, it's crucial for the conscience. It's really the only way you can do what's best for yourself, while also sympathizing with, or at least trying to understand others that you're probably envious of. Thanks for listening, and let me know if you'd like to hear my opinions on any of Yoda's other idioms.